Snow White. A young princess named Snow White lived in a distant kingdom surrounded by rolling hills and sparkling rivers. Her skin was as white as snow. Her lips were red like poppies, and her hair was black like night. Snow White's beauty was renowned, but her true beauty came from her kind heart and gentle spirit. However, another woman resided within the castle walls, Snow White's stepmother, the Queen. The Queen was known for her vanity and jealousy. She had a magic mirror which she kept hidden from everyone. Sometimes she would go to a secret room, place the mirror in front of her, and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" The mirror would always answer, "You are the fairest one." Pleased with herself, the Queen would hide the mirror away and return to the castle. She knew the magic mirror never lied and always told her the truth. Snow White grew more and more beautiful with each passing year. Her black hair was as dark as night. Her snow-white skin was as fair as the first snowfall, and her rosy cheeks were as bright as blood. She was a delight to behold. One day, the Queen went to her secret chamber, placed the mirror in front of her, and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" But this time the mirror answered, "You, my Queen, are beautiful, it's true, but Snow White is even more beautiful than you." The Queen got furious and threw the mirror away. From that day on, she knew no peace. Envy and anger grew in her heart, consuming her from within. While the king was away hunting, the Queen called her trusted huntsman and commanded him to take Snow White deep into the woods and leave her there, never to return. The huntsman did not want to do this, but could not disobey the wicked Queen. Snow White was glad to stroll in the forest with the huntsman, unaware of the danger. She enjoyed collecting flowers and admiring the wildlife. Feeling compassion for her, the huntsman revealed the truth about the Queen's plan. He suggested she seek shelter in a small cottage until the king returned. After a long walk, Snow White sat down, feeling cold, exhausted, and devastated. Suddenly, she noticed a tiny cottage with warm light in the windows. Ignoring her troubles, she approached the house, knocked on the door, and, to her surprise, the door opened. Inside, she found a cozy room with a 7-person table set. She counted the plates and cups on the table and realized 7 people lived there. Who could they be? She wondered as she looked around. 7 small beds stood in the corner of the room, each with a white sheet and a tiny pillow in different colors and patterns. She was so tired that she fell asleep on one of the beds. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs. They would spend their days mining for gold and jewels in the mountains. This time, they returned home late at night as usual. They noticed the door was open as they approached the cottage that evening. Worried, they whispered, wondering who could have entered their home. Who would come to this remote place? One of them stepped inside and saw Snow White lying on one of their beds. "What a beautiful creature! What is she doing here alone in the woods?" the dwarfs asked each other, unsure what to do. They sat up all night, afraid of waking their unexpected visitor. When Snow White woke up and saw the little people, she was frightened. However, the dwarfs were kind and curious, so she gathered her courage and spoke to them. "I'm sorry for entering your home without asking, but I had nowhere to go," she said, and then, word by word, she shared her story with them. The dwarfs felt sorry for Snow White, especially after hearing about the cruel and proud queen who had tormented the king and his servants with her demands. After a short discussion, they invited her to stay with them. "Stay here with us, keep the house clean, and cook for us," they said. "We will protect you." Snow White agreed happily. So they began to live together. The dwarfs would go to work in the mountains each morning, while Snow White would clean, wash, and cook delicious meals. Over time, she ventured into the forest to pick wild raspberries and bake fluffy pies for the dwarfs. She also made delicious soups and casseroles from mushrooms she had gathered. The forest animals, such as hares, squirrels, and an old owl, adored the cheerful and kind Snow White, who always had a treat or a warm word for them. Days passed peacefully, but one day the dwarfs warned Snow White to be careful and not to open the door to anyone, as the queen might find out she was alive and might come looking for her. One day the queen entered her hidden room and, feeling pleased, asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of all?" The mirror answered, "You, my queen, are fair, but Snow White, who lives with the dwarfs, is fairer than you." The queen turned pale, realizing that the huntsman had deceived her. She decided to kill Snow White and regain her title as the fairest in the land. She disguised herself in dirty rags, covered her face in mud, and then went to the dwarf's cottage. She approached the window and said, "Open up, dear. I have wonderful goods from far away." Snow White looked out the window and saw an old woman holding a beautiful corset covered in jewels, shining in the sunlight. "Come here, dear. Let me help you try it on," the old woman said. Suspecting nothing wrong, Snow White stepped outside, and the old woman tied the corset so tightly around her that the girl fell to the ground unconscious. When the dwarfs returned that evening, they found Snow White lying on the ground. They quickly untied the corset, and she slowly came to her senses. Having heard what happened, the dwarfs warned her to be more cautious. "Snow White, that old woman was your wicked stepmother," one of the dwarfs said. "Don't open the door to anyone while we're away." Meanwhile, the queen returned home and changed into her best dress. She asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of all?" The mirror answered, "You, my queen, are fair indeed, but Snow White, who lives with the dwarfs, is fairer." Enraged, the queen realized the dwarfs had saved Snow White. She spent the night plotting her next move, using dark magic to poison a beautiful comb. She disguised herself and hurried to the dwarf's cottage. "Open up, please. I have wonderful gifts from far away," she said. Snow White looked out the window, but refused to open the door. "The dwarfs told me not to," she said. The old woman pulled out the comb, which sparkled and gleamed, and cackled, "But surely they wouldn't forbid you to look." Snow White was so fascinated by the comb that she opened the door. The old woman quickly put it in her hair, and the girl fell to the floor. Later that evening, when the dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White and realized the comb had been poisoned. They removed it, and she woke up to tell them about her carelessness. They warned her not to open the door while they were gone. Meanwhile, the queen returned to her mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are beautiful, but Snow White is more beautiful than you." The queen locked herself in a secret room and prepared a poisoned apple, which was half white and half red. A single bite from the red half would be deadly. The following day, the queen disguised herself as an old lady and went to the dwarf's house with a basket of apples. "Open up, please. I have wonderful apples from far away," said the old lady. But Snow White replied, "I was told not to open the door to strangers." The old woman came to the window and showed her basket to Snow White. "No matter, my dear," the old woman said. "I'll find another buyer for these delicious apples, but I'll give one to you. It's so beautiful." "No, thank you," Snow White replied. "I've been told not to accept gifts." The old woman sneered. "Who has scared you so much? Are you afraid of poison?" She took a bite of the white half of the unpoisoned apple and offered the other half to Snow White. The girl reached out and took the apple, biting into it. Suddenly, she collapsed to the ground. Back at home, the queen asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" The mirror responded, "You, my queen, are the most beautiful of all." The queen laughed, satisfied, her jealous heart finding peace, if such hearts can ever find peace. When the dwarfs returned that evening, they found Snow White lying lifeless. They searched for the poison, but found nothing. They placed her on a bed and took turns watching over her, bringing her flowers each day. She lay there, white as snow, with hair as black as night, and cheeks as red as blood, looking as beautiful as if she were just sleeping. Many days passed, and the dwarfs mourned over Snow White. Then one day a prince came by and saw the beautiful young woman. The dwarfs told him her tragic story. The prince was enchanted by Snow White and asked the dwarfs, "Let me take her to my castle. I will cherish her as my beloved wife." The dwarfs agreed, thinking a princess deserved to be in a real castle. As the servants carried Snow White away, one of them stumbled over a root, and a piece of poisoned apple fell out of her mouth. She awoke, and there was immense joy. The dwarfs danced around Snow White, and the forest came alive with their joy. Enraptured by her beauty, the prince asked her to become his wife and return to his kingdom. She accepted his proposal, and they left together. And so Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, in a kingdom filled with laughter, friendship, and love. Good night. Sleep tight.